How's it going, everyone? Blade here, and I'm bringing you a new series that I will be calling Quick Builds. These will be really short build guides for some of the builds that I found the most interesting that I ran, but didn't quite have enough time to fully flesh them out in as much as I would have liked to. On all of these builds, I really want to hear from all of you guys, because if you find anything interesting that could be added to it or any cool optimizations, I would love to hear about it so that maybe in the future I can play it and see how it goes. Today, I'll be highlighting my Chaos Archmage Trickster. While I talk about a few things, I'm going to throw up some clips behind me just for some examples of the gameplay of the build. So the basis for the build came in a few forms. First, the reason I even thought of it was actually this cluster notable right here, Dark Ideations. At only 4k mana, it gives you 80% increased chaos damage, which is pretty darn good for a single notable. It's not build defining by any means, but it's great. It doesn't stack with itself, unfortunately, just in case you were wondering. Secondly, I needed a spell. I was really leaning towards using Crackling Lance the entire time. However, it feels really bad when it comes to clear. So that's where Spark came in. Spark, once you get a few Pierce, which you can get on the tree, is really nice and clear and does great for clear and kills bosses wonderfully, especially if they're like map bosses, especially if they're in a small arena. And so our two spells are Phantasmal Spark and Anomalous Crackling Lance. Both of these have chaos conversions, and it makes them great for our build. The third is Voltaxic Rift, which is a great way to convert the rest of your damage over to chaos damage, and it gives you some great bonuses. One of those is that it makes it so that your chaos damage can now shock, which is awesome. Another one, it makes it so that your shocks are applied as though you're doing 300% more damage, as in 4 times your damage is how much it's calculating to apply your shock, which in this case, also because of Voltaxic, your shock can go up to 100%, which is a 50% more multiplier on your damage on top of what shock can normally do. And that will happen almost all the time. Lastly, just to explain how, if any questions are there about it, how I keep my mana up all the time, I do have about 2,000 mana per second in regen. That isn't quite enough for an Archmage build, and so there are two things which are very helpful to keep your mana up at all times. The first is actually one of the main reasons I chose Trickster, Weave of the Arcane. It gives a bunch of mana, and more importantly, a 30% chance to recover 10% of your mana when you use a skill. While at the end, you're going to be sitting about 7 to 8k mana, so that's quite a bit of mana each time it procs. The second one is actually a mainstay for most Archmage builds, which is a pair of Nexus gloves. These are ritual-based type, and they shouldn't be extremely hard to find and nor very expensive just for the base, and all that you're really looking for is life, mana, and some res on them. There's other things that you can get, but that's really all you need. And these gloves are amazing. They do give negative mana, and that's okay, because they give a 30% chance to get all the mana that you just spent on a spell right back, which in our case is about 2,000 mana. So it's extremely nice and completely invaluable. With those two things, you'll rarely have mana issues, and you'll be able to beat just about everything. And you'll just need to make sure that you keep your mana flask up and running, and everything will go great. Now let's move over to my current build, and I can show you how everything is set up. Here's my current character. I'm level 93 and I have just under 4k life and just under 8k mana. This is perfect because we have 50% mind over matter, and so we're right where we need to be. I also have taken Phase Acro and Acro, and along with Elusive and Lunaris, you get a pretty darn good amount of dodge, making you pretty defensive with everything all together. Now, to go over our items really quick. As we said, we have Voltaxic and the Nexus gloves, and then we have a bunch of uniques that are great for Archmage. Crown of the Inward Eye, at Series Foible, Essence Worm, and Cloak of Defiance, which gives you Mind Over Matter itself. All that we need is just a 5-link Cloak of Defiance, so that will save a lot on the cost here. And then we have a basic resistance ring with some mana regeneration on it. And then we have boots, which the main thing we're looking for here is elusive. And then Tailwind is just a nice quality of life on top of it. And then our last two items are the items that we'll need to probably craft ourselves, which firstly we have this quiver, which all that you're looking for is the fractured base so that you can have some life on it. And then you throw Essences of Scorn until you hit at least one decent resistance on there with it. Then you'll annul all the way down to just the essence mod and the resistance. And then you'll put Suffixes Cannot Be Changed and hit it with a Veiled Chaos. In this case, you'll more than likely hit exactly what you need, which is one of two mods. You either need the mana mod or you need the frenzy charge generation mod. If you get either of those, then you just craft on the other side and you're done. It's really nice and simple, and it's not even that expensive except for the suffixes cannot be changed, which is a couple of X. Down here, this belt, you either need a Shaper or Redeemer base, which is quite easy to get with the Redeemer. All you need is just a Redeemer Exalted Orb. Then you make it white, throw 4 Fertile Catalysts at it to give it the 20% quality, and then throw some Lucent Fossils at it. You will for sure hit the mana regeneration rate and the flat mana when doing that, and then all you need is a bit of resistances, and then you can throw a life roll on there and it's all done. As for our flasks, they're pretty basic flasks: Bottled Faith, Mana, Cinder Swallow, Diamond, and Quicksilver, which I will switch out for at Series Promise whenever I'm fighting a boss, which also includes Assassin's Mark, which I'll switch in, which I'll explain in a moment. As for our gems, we have Spell Echo, Controlled Destruction, Archmage, Efficacy, and Pinpoint as our supports for our Spark. Efficacy primarily because it's nice to have a little bit extra time, skill effect duration on Spark. And then we have, in our helmet, we have Arcane Cloak with Flame Dash that are tied to Second Wind and Arcane Surge, fairly normal. Over in our chest piece, we have an Orb of Storms that has Hex Touch and Power Charge Uncritical on it. You will need to get an Awakened Hex Touch in order to use a second curse. So in my case, I would suggest just using Despair until you get the Awakened, and then you can add in Enfeeble or Assassin's Mark for bosses, which you will have to manually cast on them. Down here, we have Clarity, Divergent Convocation, which gives us our Unnerve. We have Val Righteous Fire, and Sigil of Power. Over here, we have just a Wither Totem set up that I just have an extra ink duration on there, just to help out for it to last a little bit longer. And then we have our Wrath right here. Let's pop into our passive tree. It is actually fairly basic. In our Ascendency, we have Weaver the Arcane, as I said. We have Harness the Void, which just gives us a bunch of extra damage. And then this gives us damage reduction and stun immunity, which is extremely nice. Otherwise, we are just going over here to set up a normal Archmage tree, grab Intensity here, put a Healthy Mind here to get a bunch of mana. We come down here, get some basic jewels, fill out everything. And on my current PoB over here, we're going to go over and grab this jewel in order to get a bunch of extra res and evasion, which will be extremely nice. And then we go down here, we grab this for movement speed and chaos damage and dex, because we do need quite a bit of dex to hold on to Voltaxic, but Foible does help out with that quite a bit. Go over here, we grab our cluster, which includes Touch of Cruelty, which is a 10% more multiplier, but you will have to have an Abyss Jewel with Hinder on it, as that notable doesn't let you hinder things through your spells, since none of them are actually chaos spells, they're lightning spells. Right here we have Dark Ideation, as I said. Right here we have the Pierce that I was talking about, and then we go down to Wind Dancer, and that's about it. So if you have any questions or have any ideas or anything like that, please let me know. Right down here in the comments, I read them, I reply to all of them, and then if you want, you can speak to me live over on Twitch. I'm there most days, and I can help you out with anything that you need. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As you always know, it helps us out so much, and I appreciate it personally so much. And you all have a wonderful day out there.